Welcome back, Phantom Shipmates. Check out my ride for the next 500 miles. This is a Beneteau Figaro 3 race boat, and it is a monster of a race boat. And it's got foils, but those are special kind of foils. We'll talk more about that later. We'll do a boat tour later. Suffice it to say that this boat could be in a Top Gun film. Now, the cruising world, which is me, and the racing world, which is him, are usually not on speaking terms. But because we have an exceptional captain, and this time we hope to bridge that gap. When I say an exceptional captain, this guy here is a legend in the Alpine skiing world. He has qualified for 4 Olympics. He won medals in 3 of them. Ivica Kostelić, and he's been on the podium 60 times in World Cup racing, and was even the world champion. So he is a monster of a skier. In the last several years, he's been sailing performance racing boats there. So a lot more about Ivica later. We'll do an interview with him, do this correctly here. So what are we doing? Well, we're delivering this boat 500 miles from Dubrovnik in Croatia, where we are now, to Malta, where Ivica and another professional sailor will race it in the Middle Sea race, which goes from Malta around Sicily and then back to Malta again. So this is just a delivery, a convoyage, as we say in French, of the boat. Should be great fun. Ivica, yeah. Just one, thank you very much for the invitation. I just want to tell you that I read recently that the chances of making an error on a sailboat is equal to the sum of the crew squared. Are you sure you want to invite me on board?
Of course, of course. Okay. You know, it's in sailing, you need to make mistakes in order to progress.
There you go.
So I'm not saying that we're going to make a lot of mistakes, but you have to be prepared.
Okay, well, let's go. We're on our way. Underway. Time to escape from the ordinary. Let's go. Okay, we're underway now, and a couple of questions for Ivica, who's the captain of this boat. Ivica, I see we've got the big spinnaker out, and it's not a roller furler.
No, no. It's just a regular SPI. It hoists. It's open when it's hoisting, so no stock, no furler.
Okay. And I see that you run the sheet around the front, so that means you only do jibes to the outside?
Yes, I do the jibes to the outside in any wind that is over 5 knots.
Oh, okay.
So under 5 knots I do the inside jibe, over 5 knots I do the outside jibe, because it's way easier to do the outside jibe in a stronger breeze.
Okay. So I see that we've left the jib up with the spinnaker out behind it. What are your thoughts on that? Why do you leave it out, and when do you bring it in, and how to drop it?
You hoist it when the wind's over 15 knots. First, it enhances performance a little bit, and the other thing is that it's much easier to get out of a broach once when you have the jib out. The
jib to support you on with the spinnaker. Okay.
You get some extra points on speed over 15 knots. But under 15 knots, I never found it useful. It's just killing the speed a little bit.
Yeah.
Although some people are forcing it even under 15 knots.
And I saw that when we hoisted the spinnaker, we hoisted it behind the jib. You already had the jib out.
Exactly.
And the rationale for that?
Yes, absolutely, because the spinnaker doesn't fill when it's behind the jib, especially when you're dropping the jib, the spinnaker. Sorry, it's very useful to have the jib covering the spinnaker to take all the extra wind out.
Yeah.
And also with hoisting, we try to hoist before the spinnaker fills. So,
Okay.
and to make that easier, we hoist it behind the jib, and we also have these little zip lines here, which are keeping the tack part of the sail. So the first, I would say, maybe 4 or 5 meters
Yep.
are keeping it inside a sock.
Yep.
So it's zipped inside a zipper, and once when the upper part of the sail fills with wind, then the zipper opens up. And
Okay.
this is very helpful because often the spinnakers get tangled in the spray under the bow, and of course you may have problems. And with this zip, it's very useful in big seas.
That's very clever. I haven't had that on my boat.
It doesn't fill up with seawater,
Yeah.
and you may have a lot of problems if this happens.
Okay, let's move aft a little bit to something that's a little unusual, and that's these foils. I have to tell you that when I first saw these foils, they looked like flaps on an airplane. But flaps on an airplane allow us to fly slower. So you're not trying to go slow with these.
No, absolutely not.
No, so these are non-traditional foils. So why don't you explain what they are and how they work?
These are non-flying foils.
Yeah.
So they don't make the boat fly. They stabilize the boat. They add stability. So the idea behind it was that at Figaro 2, the previous generation Figaro, we had water ballast, and the new design wanted to get rid of the water ballast, keep the boat a bit lighter, and gain stability with foils.
Okay. So it does generate lift that keeps the boat more upright, and it allows you to get rid of the ballast, not having to use ballast.
Exactly. It works in a couple of ways. It has its pros and cons, so to speak, but the pros of the foil are that it keeps the bow down in upwind, and maybe you even gain a couple of degrees upwind with the help of the foil.
Okay.
So upwind performance of this boat is
better.
quite good.
Okay.
In reach, of course, you get another surface to lean on,
Yeah.
while downwind, the foil helps you with the rake of the foil because the foil can move.
Well, why don't you explain that just a little bit? Rake of the foil means moving it forward and aft.
Yes.
And when do you do that? And why do you do that?
Well, when you're sailing upwind, you want to keep the bow down. You keep the rake, the whole thing in the back.
Okay.
And as you're nearing the downwind, more downwind you move the foil forward, so it lifts the bow up.
Okay. Okay, I got you. And now these foils, they're not controlled by hydraulics. They're lines manual. Okay.
Everything on this boat is
Manual.
manual. It's a competition boat, so
Okay.
absolutely. This is the Figaro boat is a platform for offshore sailers. Probably the best offshore sailors in the world are bred in Figaro class.
Training. Okay. We'll talk a lot more about that in an interview. Now there's one other interesting system that you have here. It's kind of a three-dimensional adjustment for the sheets. It's kind of a barber outhaul or in-haul. So usually on the boats that I've had in the past, the jib track has run this direction, and you can bring it forward and aft as you're going. Here I see we put everything through an anti-friction ring, and you can pull that in and out and loosen it, I suppose, and bring it back. So this is what all the performance sailors are doing now?
Yes, like this is a standard 3D system that is usual on racing boats like class 40s, Imocas, Figaros, absolutely also minis. So it's a very simple system, and it gives you the most variations to adjusting the jib.
Yeah, just so I get a little closer shot of it. So by pulling on this line here, you can pull it in, ease it out, pull it up and down by another control line.
Yeah.
Again, no hydraulics.
No hydraulics. No, the powers, like the forces on this boat are not that great.
Yeah.
And what I personally like, I was sailing class 40s for last 5 seasons, and this is the first time I stepped down a little bit in terms of like the size of the boat.
Yeah.
And everything seems a lot easier to handle. So absolutely no need for hydraulics.
Okay.
But also in big boats like Ivica's, there's no hydraulics.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, well, we'll pick this up again a little later. Thank you very much, Ivica. Time to jibe, but Ivica is going to do this all by himself. I'm not going to touch anything, and the reason is I just want you to see how a solo sailor in one of these racing boats does all the maneuver by himself. So here we go for a jibe.
So we will put the boom closer to the center line. We're gonna switch the sheet to another winch because this is where we use the backstay.
So what he's doing now is he's moving the sheet to the spinnaker to the other winch so that he can tighten the other backstay up.
Pressure on the backstay.
Now he's pre-tensioning the backstay on the leeward side that will soon become the windward.
We put the pilot off. And we'll put the tiller between our legs. Now we're steering with our legs. We'll go down. And go.
So the autopilot is back on.
Yep.
He's tightening up the backstay. He's adjusting the sheet a little bit. Yep.
I'm gonna get getting the jib across. You can do that before the jibe or after the jibe. Doesn't matter. We're gonna do that. All right, that's it.
Dear Captain has just told me is that I now have to go down below and shift all the weight from the downwind side to the upwind side. That's what these racing guys do. Ivica likes to hand steer because he likes to get the feel of the boat a little better than the autopilot, although it's a very high performance autopilot that we have on board. These racers love to hand steer, and you can see the difference it makes. Okay, Ivica, a couple of other questions that have come to mind. When I'm talking with my other cruiser friends, and not racing friends, There's a perception that these foils make boats more fragile than they were in the past. Is there any truth to that? Are boats with foils more fragile? Have you had that experience? Or?
Not necessarily. I would say not anymore. When the foils were introduced, of course, there's always a designer trouble with new designs, introducing the foil, and you know, finding the right casing to keep this foil inside the hull. I believe that was the problem. The only true problem for cruising with the foil would be, even with retractable foils, it's kind of clumsy to moor in the marinas. You always have to watch out for this foil. The foil itself, once when it's out, it's fragile. If we're talking about hitting UFOs in the water, but by itself, no, absolutely not. The foils are designed to withstand what they were built for, the powers that they were built for.
Okay, well, you know, foils are new to me, you know, but you know, maybe it's time we let the old ways die, you know, and switch over to the new stuff. Hey.
No.
Hey.
I don't think this is going to happen in cruising world.
Okay, the second question is, I noticed that you don't have a Watton-Sea hydro generator. You don't have any solar panels either. What do you do for energy on this boat?
You run the engine. You fill the batteries with an alternator that's on the engine. You have, actually on this engine here, there's 2 alternators, so you can make a lot of electricity. But for the Transat and the bigger races, they have solar panels on board as well.
Okay, and just so that it's clear for the viewers who aren't used to it, when you turn the engine on, you're actually, in formal races, they put a seal of some kind on to ensure that the propeller isn't being used.
Exactly.
Okay.
They seal the engine, so that way you cannot use the propulsion. You can just use the engine for recharging the batteries.
Okay, thank you for clearing that up. And the third question that comes to mind was, I've seen on some kind of boats that they have canting keels. Does this one have a canting keel? No,
this one has a fixed keel. Canting keel is a usual feature on IMOCAs, on Maxis. Absolutely, like even in the mini proto category, you have canting keels. Canting keel is a great way to stabilize the boat, to get more power. It is, on bigger boat, it demands quite a sophisticated system of hydraulics to keep the canting keel in place, but it's a usual feature nowadays.
Okay. Well, one final question. Is that a carbon fiber mast that you have here?
Yes.
And the advantage of carbon fiber mast is it's just the weight. It's a weight advantage. So that means you have to have less weight in the keel to offset the weight that would normally be in the mast.
Yes.
Are they as strong as aluminium masts?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, no problem there. Okay.
The carbon production has moved progressed very well. Yeah. And carbon masts are used everywhere. Yeah. They're super light, and it's just a standard in many racing boats.
And just so when I used to fly as a fighter pilot, I lived in that transition where we went from metal airplanes to various polymers that were used. And I remember the first time I went to one of the fighters I was flying had the elevator that's on the rudder to make you go up and down, was not made out of steel, and I was kind of nervous about that. To tell you, but it, of course, as Ivica said, the engineering is so sophisticated now that was never a problem. But those things are very dependable, very strong. Okay, thanks, Ivica. One of the things that racers do quite often is what's called cross sheeting. You can see that the sheet is coming down, and it goes back through a block there. And the way that you do that is, first of all, you just do the maneuver as usual, and this would be wrapped around this winch here. And then you can see the little cam cleat there. You can open up that cleat like this and put the line in there and then block it off, and then that allows you to take it off this winch and put it on the other winch. And the reason that you do that is it's not so important on a day like today when we're running downwind fairly flat, but when you're heeled over quite a bit, you want to be on the upwind side, sitting there all the time, and have that winch right at hand. So cross sheeting is something that racing sailors do very often. I've seen many of the guys in the Mini Transat do the same thing. And I actually haven't done it that much on my boat, just occasionally when the boat was really heeled over. But it's a good technique to know and to understand, because it makes handling the sails much easier. This is why we go to sea. It doesn't get any better than that. Well, look at me. Yesterday I was nothing. Today I am the guardian of his sleep. Quelle responsabilité. Quick tour of the inside of this Figaro 3 boat, just so you can see. But one of the unique things about the Figaro boats is that they are all identical, and that I really like. So that all these races that they do are really a test of the man, because the boats are identical. They're not allowed any modifications. So really quickly, you can see there's not much inside. In terms of electronics, this is the Adrena system. It has an NKE autopilot, but this feeds information in, gives you with your chart pullers the speed of the boat and all of it, etc., etc. EPIRB, VHF radio, AIS, and that's about it. There's not much more. The toilet is a bucket. The shower is non-existent. You have to go stand out in the sea spray. There is no galley. We use a jet boil to cook. One of these things. You just boil water and you put the water into dehydrated food to rehydrate it. So, and then I know what you're going to say, Bordel, this looks like a mess, but this is what we do after every tack. You move all the sails and anything with any weight to the upwind side to act almost as ballast. And for sleeping at nighttime, we do unload everything here, but stick it on the same side, and you can lower this down and sleep on that. It's not particularly comfortable, but you know, comfort is overrated. You know, comfort, it starts as a guest. You invite it in as a guest, a stealthy guest, and then they take over as a host, and the next thing you know, you've got a television screen mounted in your boat, and then finally it becomes your master, and you're driving a catamaran that looks like a room from the Hilton. So this is racing, sailing at its purest. You know, no creature comforts and all that. And you know, it's been said many times that sailing tells you how little a person needs, not how much a person needs. So, and I think there's some truth to that. So again, now we've moved everything that had any weight in it to the upwind side, and that's what all of this is. And cram sails, and we move it all back and forth. And when you're in a jibing and tacking situation where you do that very frequently, it's a debate. Is whose turn is it to do it? I did it the last time. No, I did it the last time. Okay. Anyway, that's the inside of one of these things. It does have a diesel engine. I'm sitting on the engine cover. You see the top number there. is 11.5 knots. That's our speed over ground. Moving along nicely in 18 knots of true wind. Whoa! There are times when holding your breath is safer than breathing. Well, with all that glassy water out there, that tells a story. So 60% of our trip, unfortunately, we had to do what sailors hate doing everywhere, but sometimes, I mean, we need to get the boat to the starting line for the race.
7 knots, they say.
So in summary, my impressions of the boat, this Beneteau Figaro 3. To keep it simple, this boat is bad to the bone. It is really fast. We were running downwind in 18 to 25 knots, and the boat was doing between 10 and 15 knots for 36 hours straight, no problem. Really, really rapid, very impressive. Comfort, zero, but the comfort isn't a factor for a boat like this. Now, I think that I could learn, I know I could learn all of the lines and the riggings and the maneuvers, tacking, jibing, hoisting sails, dousing the spinnaker, etc. I could learn all of that literally in 2 or 3 days with a little bit of practice. So that's not the problem. The challenge for someone with a fair amount of amateur experience. The problem is how to use that in racing mode to optimize performance of everything. When do you change the sails? What VMG, what heading do you use to optimize speed and the trade-off with distance, and to learn all of those and all of the fine-tuning that's necessary. I didn't show it to you, but there's numbers everywhere on the boat underneath the underneath the spreaders. That's for setting the sails. These numbers here are setting the rake of the foils. You can move them in and out and forward. So, and he's got just a ton of information that he uses. And all of the lines have little marks on them. See, like this. The lines have marks on them, so he knows where to put them. Even the backstay tension. These dots on the deck are for setting the backstay tension. He brings this up and he matches it with one of these dots there, depending on the conditions. So everything has a setting to optimize performance. That's what would take months, I mean years of experience to become a really top-notch racer and to know how to do it. So now, in terms of sailing the boat, it is tricky when you first do it. For example, like I said, we were out in a good 20 plus knots of wind, and we had the big asymmetric spinnaker out, and Ivica, much to his error, allowed me to hand steer for many hours doing that. And they don't depower at all. These are racers, you know. One of the things us amateur guys do is we usually drop a spinnaker at night, and many people even put in a one reef and maybe even 2 reefs at night just so they don't get surprised. Well, the racers, they go full speed 24 hours a day. So he didn't, they don't depower the spinnaker by running really deep. They come up 40 or 50 degrees to get that Venturi effect there through the slot and really get the power out of the downwind sails. So it's really powerful. So you have to be careful. And the little gust of wind, when I was hand steering, me the amateur, when I was hand steering, I broached 6 times in 36 hours. 6 times in 36 hours. Ivica, when he was hand steering, did not broach a single time. So that's just the experience, the touch. Okay, here's a gust of wind. I gotta anticipate it. Pull the sheet in, pull it, ease it out, or the tiller in or out. And he's, you know, that's what you learn with experience. You know, so I was a bit embarrassed by all that and humbled. And for those of you new to sailing, broach means that with a little gust of wind, or you know, if you're not handling the tiller right, broaching a sailboat means that the wind will catch the sail in such a way that it will turn very violently upwind into the wind, and that can be really dramatic. And the rudder will then stall, and you lose control, and you have to release the boom bag and maybe release the spinnaker sheet, and so it gets a bit messy. I'm surprised that Ivica put up with my silliness. Anyway, good fun, good learning experience. Well, good morning, Phantom Shipmates. We have arrived at Valletta, which is the capital of Malta, safely. And so now all efforts are directed at preparing the boat for Ivica's race. It's called the Middle Sea race around Sicily and back. So that consists of removing the delivery sails and then fitting the boat out with a full set of racing sails. And removing all dead weight from the boat. So and then we'll get going. So I'm very interested in the transition that was made from being a world champion Alpine skier to sailing. But before we talk about that, just a couple of words, Ivica, on your Figaro class plans. Okay, you've been sailing very successfully for a few years now, 4 or 5 years actually, in class 40 boats, and now you switch to the Figaro 3. So what are your plans for Figaro, and what project, what lies ahead?
What lies ahead is a couple of training races. There are proper races, of course, but a couple of training races in the Med, as this is much nearer to my home and where I'm training. But at the end of that cycle, it's going to be in December. I'm going to move the boat to Lorient, where I'm going to keep training during winter months in the Lorient Grand Large Center. And then it's just Figaro circuit in the spring.
Okay.
Probably I'd focus more on the double-handed races for the beginning, to, you know, get them to know the boat better, easier way, a step into single-handed racing. And then
eventually plans for La Solitaire?
Yeah. The main goal of this project, though, is Transat Paprec in April 27, which is the only Transat for the Figaros. It's double-handed, and this is the highlight of the project. Figaro Solitaire in 27.
For the viewers, the Figaro, La Solitaire du Figaro, is very famous in France and all of Europe, actually. It's kind of the nautical equivalent of the Tour de France on bicycles, except it's done in these very fast racing boats by very skilled sailors. So I hope we'll see you there someday, Ivica. Okay, let's talk a bit about the transition. And I have to tell you that at first view, the transition from being a world champion alpine skier to sailboat racing is not obvious, you know.
Yeah.
And so at first view, there aren't a lot of similarities between alpine skiing and sailing. And are there actually some similarities that I'm missing?
I was following offshore racing when I was younger. I thought this was just an amazing endeavor. It's a human limit of where you're not only trying to survive on high seas, you're actually trying to race.
Yeah, do it competitively. Yeah.
So I thought both ways it was a huge challenge. And I was actually looking for a challenge when I quit skiing to find a new sporting life. I bought a boat, like a proper offshore boat, a class 40, and started training. And I really liked it, and I wanted to excel.
Yeah.
That's how it started. But there aren't a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
I would say they're quite different. Skiing is like a short brush.
Yeah.
Everything's decided in a minute, 2 minutes. You have to risk everything. While offshore racing is very different. You have to be very smart. You have to be quite conservative. You have to watch for yourself and your boat. It's a long-term race, long-distance race.
Yeah.
A lot of strategy. It's more like a chess.
Something that struck me as we were coming from Dubrovnik to here, a comment that you made to me was that you were always looking for an extra tenth of a knot of speed, you know, compared to the competitors. And that made me think of your skiing experience, where you're always looking for a tenth of a second improvement. You know, so your comment about always trying to excel. So these are sports of tenths.
Absolutely.
Looking for a tenth of a knot and a tenth of a second.
Any sport where you have time on time is a sport of tenths and the hundredths of second.
Okay.
So you have to be very focused. Like,
okay.
This is the similarity that we're talking about. Maybe, perhaps, on a level of action, it's also a gliding sport like skiing.
Yeah, yeah.
Once when you start gliding.
La glisse.
Exactly.
Do you enjoy the solitude of? Is that something that attracts you?
Yeah. Absolutely. I've always been quite a solitary man, and this is also what attracted me in sailing. You can find your own spot, your own little planet, where you're not bothered by anyone. You can enjoy sailing. Even when you're racing, I enjoy it very much. It's a very special experience. It's almost a spiritual experience, the sailing. And yeah, you say like, yeah, there's no crowds, maybe not, but the adrenaline is just the same. I would say the adrenaline is even stronger in sailing. When it really starts blowing, you get to high seas, you get big waves, you get scared, and that's where the adrenaline is pumping, and it's pumping for hours and hours, maybe days on end. Yeah. So that's a difference. So if you're looking for excitement, you can definitely find it on the sailing side.
Okay.
As well.
And in ski racing is, I think you'll agree with this, is a sport for the youth. You know, there's a certain age cutoff in doing that. So has sailing extended your competitive life, and are we going to see you doing this for years or even decades to come?
You said it. You said
exactly
it.
That. Huh?
Like I said, it's a continuation of sporting life, where for most part, a boat takes the role of the body.
Yeah.
And of course, the sailor is the mind and spirit, but the body is the boat. And they work together to achieve results. So, absolutely. When I was nearing to an end of my career, I had many surgeries on my knees. I wasn't able to compete at 100% anymore. And I found a place where my competitive mind could still push while the body is here. You take care of the body, but you know, the boat isn't aging in a way the body is aging. So I'm very happy that I can still find that competitive mindset on the boat, the same one that I used in skiing, and still push.
And that concludes my sailing adventure with exceptional skier and sailor Ivica Kostelić. And I must say, I always enjoy meeting others whose midlife crisis floats.